I died with my fingers clawing at the noose around my neck, the rope biting deeper as the stool kicked out from under me. My own goddamn choice. Or so they made it look. Betrayed by the brother I trusted, the lover I built an empire with, and the company that swallowed my soul after 14 years of blind loyalty, I swung there in the empty penthouse, the city lights mocking me from below. But death wasn't the end. It was a reset button, slamming me back into my 28-year-old body on that rainy Tuesday in 2011, heart hammering like a war drum, the betrayal's blueprint burning fresh in my mind. And this time, I held the final switch. The rain hammered the windows of my cramped midtown apartment like it was trying to drown out the ghosts already whispering in my head. It was October 11th, 2011, and I, Lucia Reyes, ambitious analyst at Vanguard Capital, fresh off a promotion that felt like a noose even then, stared at my reflection in the fogged-up mirror. Same sharp cheekbones, same dark eyes that could cut glass, same scar on my left thumb from that stupid kitchen knife slip during law school finals. But the memories? Those were new cargo, heavy as lead, dragged back from a future I should know. 14 years from now, I'd be Lucia Reyes, Executive VP, the Latina powerhouse who clawed her way to the C-suite in a firm that chewed up dreamers like me. I'd have brokered deals that reshaped Wall Street, mentored kids from the Bronx just like I was, and loved a man named Ethan Hale with a fire that blinded me to the knives in my back. My brother, Marco, the junkie I'd bailed out one too many times, would sell me out for a fix and a payout. And the firm? Vanguard would frame me for embezzling client funds. $40 million vanished into offshore accounts I'd never touched to cover their own dirty laundry. The board, led by the silver-tongued CEO Victor Lang, would force me out with a smear campaign so vicious it painted me as the villain in my own story. Isolated, ruined, I'd choose the rope over the fall. But not this time. This time, I remembered every lie, every late-night whisper in boardrooms where the air smelled of scotch and entitlement. I remembered Ethan's cold eyes as he signed the termination papers, Marco's shaky voice on the phone confessing for a bribe. And Victor. Oh, that smug bastard. His secret ledger of insider trades and bribes that I'd accidentally uncovered 6 months before the end. The one that could topple empires if it ever saw daylight. I splashed water on my face, the cold shock grounding me. My hands trembled as I gripped the sink, but it wasn't fear. It was fury, pure and electric, coiling in my gut like a live wire. I'd spent my first life playing by their rules, networking at galas, biting my tongue during the microaggressions, proving I belonged in rooms full of white men who saw me as the diversity hire. No more. This reset was my mulligan, and I'd swing for the fences. First things first, survival. I couldn't change everything at once without tipping my hand. So I went to work that morning, the subway rattling me toward the glass tower on Park Avenue like a coffin nail. Vanguard Capital loomed there, all chrome and arrogance, a monument to the American dream's underbelly. I clocked in at 7:45 a.m., same as always, flashing my badge at security, Reyes, L, level 12. My cubicle was a beige prison cell, stacked with Excel spreadsheets and coffee rings, but today it felt like a war room. Ethan was already there, leaning over his desk in that rumpled Oxford shirt, his blonde hair tousled just so. God, he was beautiful back then, 30, cocky, with a smile that promised forever. In my old life, we'd met at a client mixer 6 months from now, sparks flying over Bad Merlot, and worse jokes about derivatives. This time, I'd accelerate that timeline. But not for love. For leverage. Hey, newbie, he called, spotting me. His grin was all charm, no shadows yet. Heard you nailed that merger analysis. Lang's got his eye on you. I forced a laugh, light and easy, the kind that didn't betray the storm inside. Flattery will get you everywhere, Hale. Buy me a coffee, and I'll spill the secrets. By noon, we were in the firm's overpriced cafe, steam rising from our lattes like unspoken confessions. I steered the talk to the grapevine, rumors of an impending merger with Sterling Partners, the kind that could make or break careers. Ethan bit, his eyes lighting up with that predatory gleam I once mistook for passion. You hear about the whispers? I said, leaning in, my voice a conspiratorial hush. Word is, Lang's cooking something big. Offshore shells, maybe. His fork paused midair over his salad. You shitting me? Where'd you hear that? Analyst's intuition. I shrugged, but my pulse thrummed. This was the hook, dangling just enough bait to reel him in without suspicion. In the future, he'd been the one to plant those doubts, twisting my words to the board. Now, I'd make him my unwitting ally. That night, back in my apartment, I cracked open my laptop, not the sleek MacBook of 2025, but this clunky Dell that whirred like an asthmatic. I started digging, fingers flying over keys worn smooth from too many all-nighters. Public records first. Marco's juvie file from '05, buried under layers of bureaucracy. My brother, 2 years younger, always the shadow to my light. I dragged him through rehab twice in the old timeline, only for him to knife me in the end for 30 grand from Victor's slush fund. This time, I'd cut the cord early, but not before using him as a canary in the coal mine. A quick email to his PO, anonymous tip about a potential relapse. Nothing lethal, just enough to get eyes on him. Marco showing up high at my door 3 days later was predictable as rain in Seattle. Lucia, sis, he slurred, reeking of cheap weed and cheaper regret, his eyes bloodshot under the hallway bulb. Need a place to crash. Lost my gig at the bodega. I stepped aside, the door creaking like a bad omen. In the kitchen, over lukewarm pizza, I played the big sister, sympathy laced with steel. What's the story, Marco? You know the rules. Clean or you're out. He spilled it all, debts to some low-level bookie, a side hustle gone south. But buried in the ramble was gold, a name. Tommy Ruiz, Victor Lang's nephew, the family's golden boy in the trading pit downstairs. Marco had been running errands for him, small-time laundering that could snowball into felony territory if connected back to Vanguard. Bingo! The first thread of Victor's web, right there in my greasy living room. I didn't confront Marco, not yet. Instead, I slipped him $50 and a burner phone. Call if shit hits the fan. But stay straight, yeah? He nodded, oblivious to the predator sizing him up. As he crashed on my couch, I lay awake, plotting. The secret ledger, Victor's digital Frankenstein of bribes and trades, lived on an encrypted server in the basement IT room. In the old life, I'd stumbled on it during a late-night audit, 6 months before the frame job. This time I'd get there first, but smart. No lone wolf bullshit. I'd build an arsenal. Allies, evidence, alibis. The next week blurred into a frenzy of calculated chaos. I volunteered for the Sterling merger team, citing my fresh perspective in the pitch meeting. Lang bought it, his patrician face creasing into that avuncular smile that hid shark teeth. Reyes, you're a firecracker. Don't burn out. If only he knew. Ethan became my shadow. Lunches turning to drinks, drinks to stolen kisses in the elevator. It felt wrong, this accelerated intimacy, like fast-forwarding a romance novel to the plot twists. But necessity over nausea. By Friday, he was whispering pillow talk about Lang's creative accounting, confessions fueled by my feigned vulnerability. You're the only one I trust here, he'd murmur, his hand tracing my spine in the dark of his Brooklyn walk-up. Lies, all of it, but they tasted like the truth I'd once craved. Meanwhile, Marco's burner buzzed with panic texts, Tommy pressuring him for more deliveries. I fed the fire anonymously. Tips to the SEC hotline, vague enough to spook but not trace. Ripples started, whispers in the trading floor about audits, Tommy Ruiz vanishing for a family emergency. Victor noticed. At the Monday morning stand-up, his eyes lingered on me a beat too long. Lucia, solid work on Sterling prelims. Keep pushing those boundaries. The double entendre hung like smoke. I smiled, all teeth. Always do, sir. By month's end, I'd mapped half the ledger's ghosts, shell companies in the Caymans, politicians' donations that smelled like extortion. But revenge wasn't a solo act. It needed spectacle. Enter the controversial play. A leak to the Times, anonymous op-ed style, hinting at Vanguard's underbelly without naming names. Wall Street's hidden hands, when loyalty pays in bullets. It dropped on a Tuesday, page A3, and the office erupted. Phones rang off hooks. Lang stormed into a closed door with the board. Ethan pulled me aside in the stairwell, his face pale. "You see this? It's gotta be an insider." I feigned shock, heart steady as a sniper's. Scary times. Makes you wonder who's really pulling strings. That night, alone with a glass of bourbon, cheaper than the single malt I'd afford later, I toasted my reflection. The hook was set. But hooks catch fish, switches flip circuits. And mine was just warming up. The fallout from the op-ed was a pressure cooker, steam hissing from every corner of Vanguard's gleaming halls. Reporters camped outside like vultures, their cameras flashing against the lobby glass, turning the entrance into a gauntlet of shouted questions. "Ms. Reyes, any comment on the leaks?" One yelled as I shouldered through, my heels clicking defiance on the marble. I kept my head high, expression neutral, the picture of the loyal soldier blindsided by scandal. Inside, I was a lit fuse, counting down to detonation. Ethan was fraying at the edges, his easy charm cracking under the scrutiny. We met in a dive bar off Wall Street that night, the kind with sticky floors and neon signs buzzing like angry hornets. He nursed a whiskey neat, eyes darting to the door every few seconds. "This shit's getting real loose." Lang's paranoid, canceled the sterling pitch, locked down the servers. I slid my hand over his on the scarred wooden table, channeling the girlfriend he thought I was. "We'll weather it. We've got each other." He searched my face, doubt flickering like a bad bulb. "Yeah? Sometimes I wonder. You seem too calm. Like you knew this was coming." My laugh was a shard of ice. "Paranoid much? It's survival mode, babe. Grew up dodging worse in the Bronx." He bought it, pulling me close for a kiss that tasted of desperation and deceit. As we tumbled into his apartment later, clothes shedding like old skin, I let the physicality anchor me. Sex was currency here, power plays disguised as passion. In the old life, it had blinded me. Now it was reconnaissance, mapping his tells, his weaknesses. He murmured secrets in the afterglow. Victor's late-night calls to Tommy Ruiz, frantic damage control. Something's rotten at the core loose. And if it blows, it would blow all right. My next move was riskier, the kind of controversial decision that could singe my own fingers. Marco had gone radio silent after a blowout fight, me confronting him about Tommy, him storming out with accusations of betrayal. "You always think you're better than me," he'd screamed, the words echoing the future's knife twist. I tracked him to a flop house in Hell's Kitchen, the air thick with despair and the sour tang of unwashed lives. He was strung out on the sagging couch, track marks fresh on his arm, when I kicked the door open. "Get up, Marco. We're done playing." His eyes widened, pupils pinpricks. "Lucia? Shit, Save it." I tossed him the burner, my voice steel wool. "Tommy's poison. You think Lang's crew gives a damn about you? You're the fall guy, same as me if I let it slide." He blinked, confusion cutting through the haze. "What are you talking about? You're golden at that firm." "Not for long." I knelt, grabbing his chin, forcing eye contact, the big sister who'd bandaged his knees and buried his fuck-ups. "Listen, you record everything. Every drop, every call with Tommy. Send it to me, encrypted. Do this, and I pull you out. Clean slate, new city." "Why?" he rasped, suspicion warring with hope. "What's in it for you?" "Family," I lied, the word bitter as bile. "And payback for the ones who made us this way." He agreed, shaky but sincere, the first crack in the facade of fraternal love I'd clung to for too long. As I left, the city lights blurring in the drizzle, guilt gnawed at me. Not for using him, but for the truth I'd glimpsed in his eyes. In the old life, he'd sold me out not just for cash, but resentment. I'd saved him too many times, become the shadow he hated. This redemption was as much for me as him. Sever the tie before it strangled us both. Back at Vanguard, the tension ratcheted tighter. Lang called an all-hands in the auditorium, his voice booming over the PA like a televangelist. "We're under siege from cowards and opportunists," he thundered, face flushed under the spotlights. "But Vanguard endures. Loyalty is our shield." The room erupted in forced applause, but I caught the side eyes, the whispers. Ethan gripped my knee under the row, his palms slick with sweat. After, in the emptying hall, Victor cornered me, casual as a shark circling chum. "Lucia, a word." His office was a shrine to excess, mahogany desk the size of a small car, walls lined with signed photos of senators and CEOs. He poured scotch without asking, sliding a glass my way. "You've been invaluable. But this leak? It hurts us all." I sipped, the burns steadying me. "Devastating, sir." "Any leads?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Working on it. Tell me, though, hypothetically, if you uncovered something irregular, would you come to me?" The hook baited. I leaned forward, channeling vulnerability. "Absolutely. But off the record? I've heard rumors. Family ties in trading. Nephews, maybe." Tommy's name hung unspoken, a guillotine blade. Victor's glass paused, then he chuckled, low, dangerous. "Gossip's a killer, Reyes. Stick to facts." Dismissed, I rode the elevator down, adrenaline spiking. The seed was planted. Now for the controversial gut punch. Seducing the enemy within. Not Ethan, too close, too compromised. No, it was Claire Voss, the board's Ice Queen enforcer, 42 and ruthless, the one who'd drafted my termination letter in the future. Lesbian whispers followed her like perfume. I'd ignored them then, fearing the label. Now, labels were weapons. We crossed paths at a networking gala in the village, black tie affair with string quartets and overpriced caviar. Claire was a vision in emerald silk, her blonde bob sharp as a blade, commanding a knot of admirers. I approached with champagne flutes, toasting to unsung heroes. She arched a brow, appraising. "And you are?" "Lucia Reyes. Merger team. Admire your work on the compliance overhaul. Bold moves in a timid town." We talked for hours, the crowd fading to static. She was brilliant, barbed, admitting over second glasses that Vanguard's old boys frustrated her as much as me. By midnight, in the coat-room shadows, our hands brushed, lingered. "Dinner?" she murmured, breath warm against my ear. "Controversial? Hell yes." Sleeping with the executioner, blurring lines of power and desire in a firm that thrived on straight-laced facades. But Claire was the key to the boardroom, her access to Victor's inner sanctum unmatched. And in her Tribeca loft the next week, silk sheets tangling, I confessed fragments, doubts about the leaks, a source close to Tommy. She listened, post-coital glow softening her edges, promising discretion and intel. "You're playing with fire, Lucia," she warned, tracing my collarbone. "But damn if it isn't hot." Fire? I'd bring the inferno. Marco's recordings trickled in, grainy audio of Tommy barking orders, numbers that matched the ledger's ghosts. I cross-referenced with Ethan's slips, building a dossier thicker than a phone book. But cracks showed, Ethan growing distant, questions sharpening. "You're different lately," he accused one night, staring at my laptop screen. "Like you're 2 steps ahead." I deflected with sex, then truth serum, partial confession about Marco's ties. He's in deep, helping me expose it for us. Us. The word was a grenade. He pulled away, hurt flashing. "You should have told me." Couldn't risk it. Lies upon lies, the foundation crumbling. The climax brewed in December, snow dusting the streets like cocaine fallout. Lang announced a purge, layoffs disguised as restructuring. My name wasn't on it, but Ethan's was whispered. Desperation made him sloppy. He confronted Victor in the exec lounge, voice rising. I eavesdropped from the hall, heart pounding. "You're framing traitors to cover your ass." Ethan snarled. Laughter, cold as January wind. "Jarefu, hale." Loyalty's a two-way street. That night, Ethan showed up at my door, wild-eyed. a USB drive in hand, snippets from the server raid he'd attempted on a hunch. We go public. Together.
Tempting.
But the twist loomed. In my memories, Ethan hadn't just signed off. He'd initiated the frame, sleeping with Claire to seal my doom. Was this redemption or another layer of the con? I kissed him, stalling. Tomorrow. We plan it right. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving. The switch awaited. The plan crystallized over takeout low main in my apartment, the city a whiteout blur beyond the panes. Ethan paced, USB clutched like a talisman, while I feigned alliance, nodding at his rants, sketching timelines on napkins stained with soy sauce. Marco's latest drop burned a hole in my inbox. Crystal clear audio of Victor and Tommy, voices tinny but damning, plotting the merger's adjustments, insider trades that would net millions while screwing pension funds dry. We hit the SEC at noon, Ethan insisted, collapsing beside me on the futon. His eyes, once lazy with confidence, now darted like cornered prey. Full dump. Recordings docs. Lang goes down. We ride the wave. I traced his jaw, buying seconds. And us? After? Partners. Real ones. He leaned in, hopeful, oblivious to the chasm.
Partners.
The word soured, echoing the old life's vows we'd whispered before he gutted me. Claire's texts buzzed my phone. Urgent, laced with affection. Lang's calling an emergency board. Something's leaked. Dinner after? Leverage doubled. She'd be my Trojan horse. Morning came with a vengeance, skies clearing to brittle blue. I left Ethan nursing coffee, promising to sink at the Federal Building. Instead, I detoured to Vanguard, badge swiping me into the belly of the beast. The IT sublevel, humid and humming with server farms like mechanical beehives. Claire's stolen keycard, pilfer during a passionate distraction, granted access. Heart slamming, I jacked in, fingers dancing over a terminal that predated my memories. The ledger materialized, a digital hydra of spreadsheets and PDFs. I downloaded it all, 40 gigs of felony, to an external drive, then uploaded Marco's audios as viruses, timed to bloom at 11:45 a.m. Controversial? Arming the bomb and walking away, letting innocence catch shrapnel. But mercy was a luxury I'd lost on that rope. Upstairs, the boardroom thrummed with panic. Victor at the head, Claire to his right, faces taut as drum skins. I slipped in uninvited, the door clicking shut like a safe-cracked vault. Reyes. Victor barked, surprise curdling to suspicion. This is close. I know the agenda. I tossed the drive onto the table, its clatter echoing like a gavel. Embezzlement, bribery, trades that'll land you in orange. Playtime's over. Gasps rippled, Claire's eyes widened, flicking between betrayal and intrigue. Victor recovered first, rising slow, his voice velvet over venom. Bold move, Lucia. But proof. Click it. I nodded at the wall screen. The virus triggered, files blooming, Victor's face pixelated in grainy video, Tommy's voice droning in criminals. The room froze, a tableau of crumbling empires. You bitch, Victor hissed, lunging for the drive. I sidestepped, hand slamming the emergency panel. A hidden switch, relic of the building's prohibition speakeasy days, wired to flood the floor with inert gas, locking down servers and doors. Alarms wailed as vents hissed, executives coughing, scrambling for exits that sealed like tombs. Not lethal, just lockdown, buying time for the feds. Controversial as hell. Trapping the guilty with the gray, Claire included, her glare a mix of fury and fucked fascination. Why me? She mouthed through the chaos. Collateral. I lied, the gas stinging my eyes. I rode the service elevator down, bursting into the lobby as sirens wailed distant. Ethan waited curbside, oblivious, until I shoved the full dossier into his hands. Run with it. But go alone. His face crumpled. What?
Luce?
You're dirty, Ethan. Always were. The frame job? Your idea, fed by Claire's pillow talk. The truth spilled, ugly and unvarnished, 14 years venom in one gut punch. I loved you once.
Now?
Burn. He staggered back, denial fracturing.
No.
I wouldn't. You did. I turned, hailing a cab as cop cars screeched up, feds swarming like ants on honey. The twist hit en route to Marco's, a voicemail from him, voice steady for once. Sis, I sent the last batch.
But
Tommy knew. Said you'd pay for dragging me in. Watch your back. Ice water in my veins. Betrayal's echo, not from Ethan, but blood. Marco, clean or not, had flipped? Or was it misdirection? The cab dropped me at the flop, door ajar, silence screaming. Inside, Marco slumped, OD'd on the couch, Tommy's card tucked in his pocket like a death note. Accidental? Orchestrated? The ambiguity clawed. But grief? Dulled by foresight. I buried him quiet, a pauper's plot in Queens, no eulogy beyond, he tried. Vanguard imploded days later. Lang indicted, Claire testifying for immunity, her text to me a lifeline. You played us all. Dinner still on? Ethan vanished, a ghost in the scandal sheets, his name smeared beside mine in redemption's shadow.
me?
I walked, dossier's architect, landing at a boutique firm uptown. No C-suite glory this round, just quiet wins, mentoring without the mess. But the final switch? It flipped in a rain-slicked alley months later, Victor out on bail, cornering me post-meeting. You think you won, Reyes? That ledger was insurance. Yours too, every move, tracked. His grin was a specter, gun glinting in his coat. The shot echoed, but I was faster, pepper spray and a knee to the groin, then 911 on speed dial. He crumpled, curses fading as blue lights flashed. In the aftermath, Claire waited at the station, coffee in hand. Twist of fate, she said, wry. Partners? I laughed, the sound free at last. Maybe. But this time, I hold the switch. The city hummed on, indifferent, but I, reborn, unbowed. Loyalty's a lie we tell ourselves. Revenge, the truth we live. And in America's grind, sometimes the fall guy's the one who flies.